All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, with another Pickled Dragon Unscripted with Dracoya, as always. So we're gonna jump into a conversation, but hopefully talk about it in a way that other people haven't really thought about yet. And that is the art in the new player's handbook that came out that everyone's flipping out about. Um, we're gonna take a look at. We got a few of our own thoughts. I'm gonna bring up some of this fantastic artwork, and we're gonna talk about it. Boom!
Boom.
That just happened. So I know, Jacoy, you had a lot to say about this one.
Yeah, we had a lot to talk about with this yesterday. First thing that I'd like to point out is that I'm confused. I'm very confused. I think a lot of people have problems with the two dwarves that are obviously a gay couple. That's not the problem. That's fine. But what I'm confused about is why are the cookies in the smithy? And why are people drinking in the smithy? Like, why isn't this guy paying attention to what he's doing? It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make sense. It feels very forced. Everything about this picture feels like they're forced. In fact, there's this guy, if you zoom in to this guy sitting at the bar and you see him kind of looking really confused, that's how I feel when I look at this picture. I'm just confused.
Yeah, there's a couple guys in the back here having snacks and coffee and whatnot. It almost looks like they're at a bar. Like that's the kind of window you would see in a bar or something, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
so maybe he's supposed to be selling the cookies at that window, and this guy's in his way. I don't know.
But then what is the forge there? And none of this makes any sense. You've got like three themes going on, and they're just trying to put as many things as they can into one piece of art. And I mean, I think I feels like they're only doing this so that they can claim inclusivity. But it feels so forced and confusing. It doesn't really feel like inclusivity. It feels like, I don't know.
Pandering,
Like what?
pandering.
Yes, that's the word.
Yeah, yeah. I know lots of people are up in arms about these two doors, but I mean, whatever. The
More power to him.
Yeah, so we're gonna move on to the next one real quick, and I think this is the one that everyone has probably had the most to say about the Mexican orcs. Uh,
Yeah.
you know,
Do you want to go first, Matt? Because I got some things, but you can
I
go
know you
first.
have some things, but I just find this an uninspired throwaway picture. You know, a bunch of orcs falconing,
Right,
like
right.
and they're taking their great axes on the falconing. I don't know. I'll let you go because you had, I think, the most insightful takeaway.
Okay, so here's the thing about orcs is they've had a long history of controversy because, they are as an orc species, they're kind of viewed as not like the best species, not the smartest, blah blah blah. And a lot of people think that orcs are a representative of the African American community. Now, personally, I think that that's completely incorrect. Orcs are just orcs. You're reading way too much into it. They're just orcs. And but what they've done here in this picture when they've painted these orcs in this clearly Latin community, not only have you undermined the argument that orcs were never supposed to represent any kind of race of an actual like real life people, but you've undermined that argument and now you've insulted the Latin community. And I've spoken to a bunch of my Latin friends and they agree with me. It's egregious.
Yeah, so whereas before there was an argument for and against, the orcs being analogous to something, now they're just coming out and saying it.
Yeah, it almost feels more racist. So, yeah, I'm not happy with this at all. As well as you're right, Matt. It's just uninspiring. It's insulting.
Yeah, I you know, and the artwork here, I don't know. I think that you have just said it best. It is I this is like something that I would be scrolling through looking for stuff on, Adobe stock, and might see something like this. But that's my opinion. I mean, that's my opinion. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all of the new artwork like that is like that quality. The piece that includes Raceland and Caramon and the big dragon, that is a damn cool painting.
Yeah, that was
There's a
cool.
lot of action. It's thrilling to look at, but that's the seems to be the exception rather than the rule in this new book. So, I
Right.
mean, at least from what I've seen.
It's
Uh,
kind of like they took AI photos and maybe added some extra bit. I'd like to think they added some extra bits into it, but it's so uninspiring that I'm not really sure it even does, they're even doing that much.
yeah, and this one again, it's the same thing. This feels like Adobe stock to me.
It
This
is
one, I guess, is
okay.
a cover of the player's handbook itself, and it's supposed to be an action pose, but
It is
I don't
okay.
feel it like I mean, I'm sure there's people that love this. I think there's probably plenty of people out there who look at this painting and say, "Man, that is amazing." But it's something I've seen 1,000 times in probably more than 1,000 times in fantasy art. It's there's nothing special there, and to make it the cover of your book, well, okay. I mean, if they're happy with it, that's all that matters, right? So
Are they?
this one this one at first I was a little bit excited because they have the grown up versions of the kids from the cartoon from the early 80s.
Yeah.
But the more we looked at it, and Dracoya, you had it, I mean, a very similar take on as to the others, as you were kind of confused. It's a hodgepodge.
There's so much going on. Like you didn't need I get that you wanted a picture of a mimic and an owl bear and some other things, and that's all cool, but why did they have to be all in one picture? Like you have time, you have money, you have pages. There's no reason that we need to fit everything into one picture like some kind of anxious child. It's okay.
Well, and that's exactly right. I mean, there's a dragon, there's sprites and bats and owlbears and goblins. And I mean, there's just a lot going on. I think if they had just maybe even made it more of a close up of these four characters and made it more about the unicorn, because they're obviously calling back to Uni, the little unicorn that they had rescued during the cartoon series. And that would have
Yeah.
been kind of an emotional moment, like, but it's like Hank over here, he's got his bow drawn, he's ready to go. Bobby the barbarian, he's like, putting the
They're
thumbs up, motioning to something, who knows what.
they're
Uh
looking in the wrong direction. This chick here is the only one who's like, hey guys.
yeah, there's shit going down.
Yeah.
And Diana, she's ready for action. And she's probably the best illustrated character there.
Hmm.
But because these two over here just look stiff as hell, all get out. I don't like that as much, but so what point we're going to try to make here is that the art that a fantasy product puts out there, that they use to represent their product, it's really important. The art is important.
It
Um,
is.
I have spoken to dozens of people, and this includes myself when I say this, but it is the art. I saw the art first and then wanted to know about the game. And I don't know how this art makes D&D compete with other pastimes like video games and movies and whatnot. Um, because it's not something that I look at and I'm like, oh, that is amazing. And so go ahead. I think you got something.
No, no, I'm agreeing with you that art should be something more. I mean, you guys are about to see it, but Matt has the most amazing fantasy art collection I've ever seen. And when I open up a D&D book, I mean, you're right, Matt, the art should be inspiring. And my last DM, when he was trying to create the scene and bring our story to life, he would have art in the background. It's important.
Yeah, it is important. And so when I say the art is what drew me in, I'm going to share a few pieces that are up on my walls now. I think a lot of these pictures were taken before we had them framed, but um, so this picture, it graces the cover of the Unearthed Arcana, a first edition book. And to me, that picture is very inspiring. I literally spent I must have spent hours as a kid looking over that picture and trying to discover every detail I could, from the little shadow demon up here in the corner to the worm creature down here. I have no idea what that is, but it's
The
cool.
snake.
He's obviously opening up a book, and there are secrets and power there to be had. It is not, and he is obviously the center of this painting. That's everything points back to him, where it's not a hodgepodge. It's not your eyes going all over the place.
Well,
Uh,
they're playing nicely with lights and shadows and the colors as well. It's really nicely done.
yes. So this is one of my favorite paintings of all time. It's called Spellfire. Clyde Caldwell painted this, and it's always ignited my imagination. I mean, there is obvious terror over here. This guy, he's ready to go, but he's just now turning around to see the wizard back there unleash a lightning bolt. But again, I
Right.
mean, there is depth there. There's action. There is emotion and a lot of fear.
And
Um,
as an artist, I have to emphasize again, they're playing with the lights and the shadows in such a beautiful way. Like this picture is darker than the last picture because it's supposed to give you a feeling of tenseness, of danger. And so there's gonna be more shadows in certain places in this picture, and it's drawing your eye to the face of the dragon and this lightning bolt. That's what good art is supposed to do.
yeah. And there is a sense of immenseness to this, that for years I've always tried to put my finger on. I have a hard time doing it still, but and that's what keeps drawing my eye back to it, and why I keep searching this painting for something a little bit more. And I think I always find something a little bit more in it. Uh,
Right.
this one was the
I love it.
reprint of the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide. And of course, this is Jeff Easley. Uh, and uh, I think you had the best take on it yesterday, Dracoya.
I love this picture so much. I want to put this on my wall. You're playing with this hot and this cold, the different types of magic here. You've got the wizard, you've got the dragon, and then you don't just have the different colors, but they're swirling together in certain parts of the painting as if they're clashing, they're fighting with each other. The colors themselves are fighting with each other. And then you have these really cool bubbles that are placed in these different areas that are giving this light refraction, and it is a well done painting. The movement in this painting is beautiful.
Yes, it's undeniable. And everything draws your eye. Everything pulls your eye back to the center.
Mm-hmm.
So while you can look at the peripheries here and be amazed by it, you always come back to the subject matter.
Right.
It is very cool. So this is my favorite painting of all time, and it's not as colorful as all the rest, but it to me is One that it just screams like it has a presence
It's
that
terrifying.
that is undeniable. And this is a Keith Parkinson. It's called Flame, or sometimes called the Great Red Dragon. But this was originally on the cover of the very first Dungeon magazine,
Mhm.
and I think that they reprinted it in a number of other places. But um, I I would spend so much time just looking through the treasure hoard and trying to figure out what item could I manage to grab and run away with before that thing turned me into ashes,
Right.
which is probably none of them. None of them I would be dead.
See, if
So,
you're a DM and you're describing this cave to your party and they happen to just suddenly stumble upon a dragon and you give them this art, this is terrifying. As a player, I'd be like, "Oh shit."
one of my favorite aspects about this is obviously treasure that this gigantic dragon is collected over time, but there's even a galley back here, a big giant ship that he's
I
hauled in here.
I
Yeah,
didn't even
why
notice that.
empty the hold of all the gold? I'll just take the ship, you know. So this definitely tells a story, and is a stunner.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So now we're going into some. This is Larry Elmore. This is the Companions of the Lance. So this one is famous more so from the perspective of the Dragonlance. This is when the companions of the Lance were together. Everyone was still alive. Everyone, um, they were still one party. And so, for those of you who are fans of the book, um, this painting holds a lot of meaning, and that in and of itself, I think in the year that we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of of D&D, a very simple painting like this, like if we would have gone back to the kids, that illustration, that painting of the kids from the cartoon, and they eliminated all of that chaos around them and just did something simple to pay homage to those days, it would have been so much more successful. Like this simple, but at the same time, for those in the know, it is a very meaningful painting. And I think that they were trying to do too much with the kids. Um, this
Oh
one
wait,
is
I have a couple more
oh
things to say
oh
on that
oh,
one.
I
So
want to go back.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
So
Uh,
sorry.
I'm Russian.
No, no, it's okay. One thing I'd like to add, though, is that again, you can see the play of light and shadow. You have the fire in the middle of the painting, and it is creating light amongst on everyone's faces, which in turn is creating feelings. They're all turned the same way. Why are they turned the same way? Are they looking at the painter? Are they did they hear something in the wood? Are they looking at something in particular? Is it good? Is it bad? But there's a lot of feeling here that is created by the different shades of color and the different plays with light throughout this painting. And I just really want to emphasize that.
Yes, and you're right. She's got the more analytical eye,
I am an artist.
an artiste.
Artiste.
So again, those in the know, this painting seems very, very simple. A dwarf and a human. But it's another Dragonlance, and the two main characters here are the only two companions of the Lance who die in the book. In the first trilogy, I should say. So for some people that carries a lot of meaning. And again, from a just a pure uh composition standpoint, it's well done. There's a lot of detail there, but I think that this painting was meant to mean a little bit more base, if you are a fan of those books. And it's it's to me, as somebody who's read the books many times, it's always a little bit of a uh, uh, a melancholy picture because or painting because of the fact that I know what happens to these two characters. And of course, you got Theros Ironfelden back here, but he's kind of pretty far out there. But
What
yeah,
I like about it is the movements. If you look at his tunic, you can see that there is definite movement in that tunic, which even though you can't paint wind, he has painted wind by creating movement in the clothes on these characters. And then he's created the depth of snow. I mean, you could almost look at that and go, oh, maybe it's just an inch of snow. But no, is it? I mean, look at that dwarf and how he's struggling to get up there. So that would lead me to believe there's more than just an inch of snow there. Like there's probably a good amount of snow that this dwarf has to trudge through. There's hardship here. There's a wind chill that I can feel.
yeah. And Flint there, the way he passes away, the way you describe it, it makes the way he passes away in the book even it brings to light that struggle as he's trudging up the hill. And of course you have Sturm there, he's gazing off into the distance, his watchful eye ready for trouble.
He
Um,
almost looks somber.
ever vigilant he was. Uh, so this is a painting that
This one.
Margaret Weiss posted on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, of Theros Ironfeld and Flint crafting the Dragonlance, and she made the point that if they want inclusivity, here's a character Theros
They've
who's
got it.
yeah, you could have put him, front and center and part of the book because he was very important to the Dragonlance saga. He, as you can see, put together the return of the Dragonlances
And see, that
and
dwarf is focused on his work. He's not sitting there going, you
cookies.
know,
Yeah, yeah,
cookies.
yeah.
What?
But I wanted to bring this one out because Margaret had shared it and made the point about it. But and that's really what we wanted to talk about, is just how important art is to not just not just sell the product, if you will, but it's important to establish a feeling and um, a legacy for the game. There's 50 years of D&D, and yet people are when people talk about the great artwork, they're not pulling out paintings from the last 10 years. They are pulling out paintings from 30 and 40 years ago and saying this is the great artwork. And it's more than just nostalgia that's pulling that stuff out. I mean, it truly was the cream of the crop when it comes to artwork. And I get that artwork is really expensive to do well. And if there's one thing that we know that WotC has been, hiring younger artists to keep the cost down. So that might have something to do with it. I don't know if they've used AI art or not. I don't really want to comment on that because I don't know. So I'm not going
That's fair. That's fair.
but I know that some people are flipping out about AI art. Which if they are using it, I guess it would be rightfully so. If we start seeing six fingers on heroes and an extra head poking out from under a shirt, maybe we have something to talk about. But I don't know if they do it for this one.
Well, AI art is coming a long way, and it is definitely getting to the point where it's getting harder and harder to tell, but we're not 100% there yet. And you're right, Matt. I probably misspoke earlier. I think that I'm just mad for my game. I'm mad for the love I have for D&D.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
times. Good times.
All
Well,
right, guys. Well, come back and well, first of all, we need you to comment, like, subscribe. Make sure you comment in the box below and let us know if you agree, disagree with me. I'd love to hear it all. Let us know what you think about our takes on art. Comment, like, subscribe, and come back and have another round on us.
woohoo!